Welcome back to the Illinois Fighting Illini Dynasty. I'm your host, Jay Shoob, and we got another great one here for you guys today. We are going to put a bow on Season 2. We will cover the rest of the bowl results from bowl season, go through the Big Ten, their final bowl games, the final top 25, go through some accolades like the final All-Americans. We'll also look at some player stats for the Illini on the season, and then we'll give a little bit of a preview of the offseason. Overall, I thought it was another successful season under Coach Steele. Year 2 now is in the books, a 9-4 season, back-to-back 9-4 seasons for Illinois. This year they improved their conference record from 5-4 to 7-2, which is a very good improvement in my opinion. They competed for the Big Ten championship this year. It came down to a late season game against Wisconsin, almost a de facto division game there. And that's something that they were not doing last season. They were not competing for the division. And this season definitely was a little bit of a roller coaster. Of course, the Missouri game, we all remember that one. That one you can just wipe off as an outlier. They struggled against Northern Illinois, and I think that Maryland game where they pulled it out in overtime, that was a huge turning point on the year. Then they started to get on a roll. They beat down on Arkansas State, 34-17 win over Rutgers. They annihilated Penn State at home. It was at that stretch that I think the offense really got going for the Illini. They won a clutch game against Minnesota. Of course, Kamari Thompson with the game-winning touchdown reception in that one. A lot of big, exciting plays against Iowa. A lot of playmakers stepped up in that one. And then one of the best games of the Dynasty, in my opinion, where they went into overtime and beat Nebraska on the road. Of course, the Purdue game, that was a downer, a classic trap game. Purdue ran up the score on Illinois at the end. That one was definitely a letdown, but Illinois still had everything in front of them. They fought very hard against a very good Wisconsin team that played in the national championship. A comeback win against a Northwestern team that seemed to play out of their minds against Illinois, but Illinois was able to pull it out. And then, of course, you guys just saw the Cotton Bowl in the last episode where Illinois lost a heartbreaker, but that was a great game nonetheless. So taking a look at the bowl results, the national championship, Auburn smoked Wisconsin, smoked them. 51-9 was the final score. How about that? Auburn, and it wasn't even close. They were up by 38 points, it looks like, to start the game. And looking here at the box score, Auburn with almost 400 yards of total offense. They completely dominated Wisconsin through the air. Wisconsin had 4 turnovers to Auburn's 0. And it looked like just one of those games. Chase Wolf actually played for Wisconsin, and he did not do too hot. So Graham Mertz did not play, so that was a tough break for Wisconsin going into the game. And then Julius Davis actually recorded more yards than the Heisman winner, Nakia Watson. So some interesting stat lines there. Bo Nix, 11-23, had a touchdown. Auburn looks like they did a lot of work through the ground. Mark Anthony Richards actually put in a lot of work over DJ Williams, who was second in the Heisman race there. So a disappointing loss for Wisconsin. Ole Miss beats Florida State in the Orange Bowl. Of course, our Illini lost to K-State in the Cotton Bowl. OU beats Clemson by 3 scores in the Sugar Bowl. USC dominates East Carolina in the Fiesta Bowl. And then the Rose Bowl, Oregon pulls out what looks like was a thriller against Notre Dame. So Oregon finishes number 2 in the polls. They won the Pac-12. And then the Peach Bowl, which I guess you could consider a New Year's Six, even though it really isn't in this BCS format. Georgia wins that one. Now taking a look at the Big Ten here. Penn State lost in overtime to Georgia Tech. They ranked Georgia Tech team. Maryland beat UAB in the Gasparilla Bowl. North Carolina edged out Michigan by a point. That one was a big-time ranked matchup. I think Michigan's definitely a lot better than their record shows. They won the Big Ten East. They played Wisconsin tough in the championship game, and they lose to the number 6 team by just a point. Rutgers pulls it out against Tulane. Ohio State beats UCLA in the Red Box Bowl. Michigan State lost to Vanderbilt in the Guaranteed Rate Bowl. Nebraska beating A&M in the Music City Bowl. I thought Nebraska was a really good team. They didn't deserve to be in that Louisville Bowl. and then Tennessee beats Indiana in the Outback Bowl. So a 4-6 bowl record for the Big Ten, certainly an improvement from last year. Last year, I believe they were 2-7, so a little bit better than last season. Here are the final standings in the conference, including the bowl records. Wisconsin 13-1. They were perfect in conference play. They, of course, lost the national championship to Auburn. Illinois 9-4. They were second in the Western Division. Nebraska was 9-4. Nebraska still finishes as a highly ranked team. They had a little bit of a disappointing season. They won the Big Ten last year in 2021, came up short this year in 22. And then the Big Ten East. In this dynasty, these first 2 years, it's been a jumbled mess both times. Michigan actually won it this year. They have an extra loss from the conference championship game. But Michigan won the Big Ten East for the first time in their school history, played for the Big Ten championship. They finally got over that Ohio State hurdle. And the Big Ten East was a jumbled mess, but a lot of solid floor teams in that division. Some other results here. The other Power 5 conferences, the ACC went 4-5. The Big 12 went a perfect 6-0 in the bowl season. Pac-12 goes 2-6. And the SEC, who had the best bowl record last year, they are 7-3 this year, the most wins, but not the greatest winning percentage. Here's the final coaches poll. Auburn, of course, won the national championship, so Florida won it last year in year one of this dynasty. Auburn wins it this year. Both of those schools went undefeated. Both those schools won the SEC. And our Illini come in finishing at number 21 in the final coaches poll. So David Deal has his squad finishing ranked to end the year at 9-4 both years in a row. A good accomplishment for David Deal. Keaton Slovis wins first team All NCAA. Nakia Watson, DJ Williams, the two running backs for Auburn. Jamal Bell and Jordan Addison, the wide receivers from Nevada and Pitt respectively, were All-American first team at wide receiver. And then how about the Illini on the defense? Keith Randolph, Anthony Shipton, Tariq Barnes, all Illini on this stout defense that was a top 10 defense all year. They were outstanding. And of course, Kyron Cumbie, his first team All NCAA at kick returner. Carson Strong is second team. Nathaniel Jones, Zach Charbonnet from New Mexico and Michigan. So how about Nevada getting two skill position players on first and second team All NCAA? And you can see here, we'll see if any Illini made second team All NCAA. And Eddie Smith at safety, the senior, he gets second team from the safety position. He had a strong year, especially towards the end. And then the All NCAA freshman team. Of course, now that we're in year two, all these freshmen are auto-generated players from the game. And Cornelius Taylor, well-deserved at free safety, or All NCAA freshman team. Cornelius Taylor, he looks like a budding star for this Illini squad. He definitely stepped it up. I thought he was outstanding, had some big plays. And now looking at the passing leaders, Carson Strong for Nevada is first in the NCAA in passing yards. Keaton Slovis, Talia Tagovailoa, and others. Nathaniel Jones from New Mexico leads the NCAA in rushing. Charbonnet and Nakia Watson behind him. Jamal Bell from Nevada is the top receiver. Keith Randolph and Anthony Shipton, not surprising, the two sack leaders, 1 and 2, both Illini. The interception leaders are also there as well. So now we'll take a look at some of the stats for these Illini players. Isaiah Williams, all in all, I thought he had a very solid season. I thought he marginally improved from last year. His touchdown to interception ratio wasn't as great. He had 13 touchdowns to 10 interceptions. He had exactly 10 interceptions last year, but he had 5 more touchdown passes. But if you look at the numbers year over year, you can see that Isaiah Williams upped the completion percentage from 60 to 64, almost 65% this year, which is a huge improvement. So he bumped up that completion percentage 4 points. And if you really exclude that first game against Missouri where Isaiah, I believe he threw 4 picks, 3 or 4. If you exclude that just awful game against Missouri, Isaiah Williams really didn't do too bad. I thought Illinois did a great job of sort of toning him down and playing more conservative with him with their game plan. And that's why the interceptions were down outside of that Missouri game, and the completion percentage was bumped up. As far as the rushing leaders, Chase Hayden, of course, led the team in rushing attempts. Chase Brown wasn't too far behind him, but Chase Hayden, 8.3 yards per rush. That is just insane. He did better than Mike Epstein last year. Mike Epstein was a rock from the running back position last year. This year it's Chase Hayden, and Chase Hayden will more likely than not be back next year. I'm very excited for this running back stable moving forward. Chase Brown and Isaiah Williams got 7 touchdown rushes on the year to Chase Hayden's 6. Chase Hayden also led in yards per game, yards after contact, and he did not have any fumbles as well. The fumbles, that's also a big thing. Not a single fumble from Chase Hayden. He has been outstanding, a very underrated player on the national scale in my opinion. Kyron Cumby led the team in receptions. The second year in a row, Cumby out of the slot leads the team in receptions. The speedster also led the receiving corps in yards, 3 touchdown receptions on the year. Kamari Thompson, once again, did not lead the team in receptions or yards, but he averaged almost 16 yards per reception. So Kamari Thompson had a great senior year. He had outstanding big plays. Taking a look here at the offensive linemen, sacks given up. It's hard to evaluate offensive linemen, but one guy that I thought stood out was Brevin Jones. He only had 2 sacks given up and 3 pancakes, and he will be the lone offensive lineman that started this year that'll be back next year. But outside of that, a little bit of struggling in the pass blocking. I thought their run blocking was outstanding, as it was last year though. And now looking at the defense, Tariq Barnes, the anchor at middle linebacker, he led the team in total tackles. I will certainly miss Tariq Barnes. He will be moving on next year. Tackles for losses, Keith Randolph led the team. He had more than half. He had double the amount of tackles for loss than the next guy up. He, of course, led the team in sacks with Anthony Shipton behind him. The interception leaders, Daniel Edwards, the true sophomore, he was tied with Marquez Beeson with 3 interceptions. Beeson, I also thought, had an outstanding season. He played so well. Last year he had his struggles, but this year he really stepped it up, and he really showed that he has the potential to be rostered on an NFL team either this year or next year, depending if he decides to leave or not. But Marquez Beeson had a great season. He led the team in pass deflections as well. Forced fumbles, Tariq Barnes, he led the team with 2 of them. Tariq Barnes will be one of the top seniors from this team that I will miss for sure. Tariq Barnes, an absolute anchor, the captain of this defense. He will be missed. Cornelius Taylor and Anthony Shipton had a pick 6 and a scoop and score respectively this season as well. Caleb Griffin, another senior that we will miss. He was rock solid, one of the unsung heroes of this team. 24 of 30 on field goals this year. He had a handful of game-winning field goals in his time here, his last 2 seasons under Coach Deal in this dynasty. And then Kyron Cumby, he did not have a great start to the year with a lot of muffed punts. He muffed the ball a few times to open the year, but the coaching staff stuck with him, and he ended up improving his kickoff return touchdown total from last year. He had 3 last year, he had 4 this year, and you can see the punt returns. Kyron Cumby, the coaching staff, to their credit, they stuck with him, and they were able to iron out those big mistakes that he had at the beginning of the year of muffing the ball. But he was quietly a lot improved the second half of the season, didn't have those issues. So Kyron Cumby will be an asset to the team next year as well. And now looking at the team stats, Illinois, they are number 10 in total defense in the entire country. This coaching staff has done an outstanding job with the defense, the development. Guys are racking up awards left and right. It's just, can't say enough about how this coaching staff has coached up this defense. Ryan Walters, the defensive coordinator in his second year. Now taking a look here at offense ranked in the Big Ten, total offensive yards, Illinois comes in at just 11th in the Big Ten, but the offense, if you dissect it by passing and rushing, Illinois was last in the Big Ten in passing yards, but we all know that that's not Illinois' style of play. And rushing yards, Illinois likes to run the ball a lot more. They were one of the few teams that had more rushing yards than passing yards on the season offensively, and they were 5th in the Big Ten in total rushing yards. Points per game, Illinois middle of the pack. They almost averaged 30 points per game offensively. The passing touchdowns was low. Rushing touchdowns was up there. And sacks allowed is another stat that I was interested to see how this team finished. And they were last in the Big Ten in sacks allowed. Once again, the pass blocking is the one downfall of this offensive line. And Isaiah Williams, sometimes it's his fault for holding the ball too long. But that's something that I'd like to see improve next year. As far as total defense in the Big Ten, the passing yards allowed Illinois, that's the one chink in the armor for this defense, is that they give up a lot of passing yards, but they make up for it for just being absolutely dominant up front. They, by a mile, did not give up nearly as many rushing yards as the second best team, clearly first in the Big Ten in rushing yards against. They, of course, led the conference in total sacks, just speaking volumes to the defensive line. They were middle of the pack in interceptions. And then turnovers. Turnovers in season 1 were such a big issue that plagued this team. And you can see it still wasn't all that great in year 2. They had a -3 turnover differential, but it was an improvement from last season. I forget the exact number from season 1, but if I recall, they were near the bottom of the Big Ten, or perhaps last in the Big Ten in turnover differential. So that was improved. That's another thing that Illinois will looking to be improving on going into next year. And that'll do it for the season 2 recap. I hope you guys enjoyed this season, and the next episode will be the off-season video. We will, of course, go through a bunch. There's a lot of ground to cover there. That'll be a longer video. I probably won't just rush through it like I did last time, but I'll kind of stretch it out a little bit more, go a little bit into depth now that we are starting to get more deeper into this dynasty. We will, of course, cover the recruiting. We'll see how Illinois' recruiting class shapes up in the off-season video for this year. One last thing before we wrap it up here. Illinois, of course, plays 3 non-conference games, and in the off-season video, we will be setting the schedule. We played Missouri last year on the road, and then we will play them this year at home. So we did a home-on-home with them. That'll be certainly a revenge game. And then the second non-conference game will be at home against a random G5 team. And then the third third non-conference game we will play on the road. And I was thinking that I would leave who we play in the third non-conference game up to you guys. We will do a home-on-home with this team. And I was thinking that we would narrow it down to teams that are in the American Conference. And that's teams that are in the American Conference currently in real life today. So I was thinking like Cincinnati or UCF or Houston or maybe Memphis, East Carolina in this dynasty. East Carolina's made the Fiesta Bowl 2 years in a row. So a team that is currently in real life in the American Conference, and we will play them on the road in year 3 as our non-conference away game, and then we will play them at home in year 4. So I'll leave that to you guys in the comment section. If you are caught up to date, I know there's not many of you that are caught up to date on this series, but if you are lucky enough to be caught up, just comment in the comments section which team that you would like to see Illinois play, and whichever team gets the most comments or the most likes or upvotes, I will play that team. Of course, there won't be many of you that will get to the luxury of getting to choose that or vote on that, because you're going to have to be caught up in real time here. And I'm going to record the off-season video here in a few days, so I'll give it maybe 24 or 48 hours. So if you comment and it gets more than a like or 2, I think it'll probably win. So whichever one of those teams you guys want to see, just let me know in the comments from the current American Conference, and we will play them on the road in year 3. Alright guys, that'll do it for today's episode. Hope you guys enjoyed season 2, and I will see you in the next video for the off season. See you guys then.